Hello, beloved ones. So it's been a long time since I have been promising to a lot of people that I'm going to start doing a Mark's ramble from time to time. And I was even thinking of like, oh, I need to do it more out in nature and things or in the garden. But I'm sitting in my kitchen and yeah, all my little lovely things around. But anyway, so there's what sparked it? So what sparked it is waking up early, very early this morning. I seem to be waking up in the middle of the night and wide awake. And the energies perhaps around the recent earthquakes in Turkey and Syria and what's going on in the world. And as energetic beings, we are feeling the ripple effects from all around us. But that's actually not the topic today. The topic actually is about change and things that perhaps we all need to look at from time to time, and something that I've also been reflecting on a little bit of late, and like how to create more change or how to adapt, and why is there such this fear around change that it almost feels like our feet are going to be brushed from underneath us and we lose all stability and all groundedness and up in the clouds and off we go. So yeah, why is there such a fear? So over time, just so this is going to be a ramble because I'm going to go from point to point and all the rest of it, and in connection with this, in my own experience, just recently, like working with clients over the last 20 years and always and recently, is always looking at change, because with an awareness of self comes change. So what keeps us from changing a lot of time, talking about awareness of ourselves and what needs to change a lot of the time, is when we don't have that awareness, or we have maybe some of that awareness, but we are more attached to our ego, the sense of identity related around who we think we are. So that ego self, which is created over time through, we always have ego, we're not going to get rid of it, by the way, so we can't just shun it out or think we can get rid of it, but it's learning to embrace that part of ourselves. So if you think of all our childhood conditioning, our belief systems that are imposed on us in our modern society, one of those that we come across often is this belief system around scarcity. And those who know me have always known that I've always maintained the sense of there is always enough. And there is always enough. There is never any scarcity. There may be times where I need to watch everything, watch my pennies, or watch how I can't just go and, grab a credit card like I used to. Actually, I used to be terrible with credit cards, but learning within our means, but not holding on to a belief system around scarcity, like there's never enough, got to have more, more of something in order to make us feel better about ourselves. And another thing that comes into that, we're talking about diet actually, just around that, is like even when we go and do, even when I go and do my shopping, I know that's changed recently. It's like, the packaging, the marketing and everything else like that, that's put out there in order for us to buy more we think we need to have. And and actually, my shopping's changed because my diet's changed, in the fact that I will go to a vegetable shop and just about find everything that I need there for the week. Anyway, besides the point, I'm going off topic a little bit, but that scarcity that has played its part through us, and also within that, how we identify ourselves within society by status, what we have and what we don't have. even the fact of whether we're married, whether we have a house, or we have a car, or whatever it is, and even this belief system around marriage and ownership and changing of names and adopting for a woman to adopt the surname of the masculine energy within that, the dominance of that society. And yeah, in rambling a little bit more around this, we are moving out of the age of that masculine dominant society, moving more into our femininity. This is the Aquarius age now. So moving with the water Aquarius, water emotion, not so much dominated by these structures that are being put into place, which have created scarcity and, as a result, fear. So going back to this fear, it's almost like this bred in fear. When we finally get to the stage of releasing fear, releasing guilt, and releasing shame. And this interesting podcast, I'll go back to that this morning. I've forgotten the guy, he's a very young guy, Andre something or the other. He was interviewing, it's on my Facebook page actually, he was interviewing Zach Bush, and Zach Bush I've followed for quite some time. He's a fountain of knowledge, quite an incredible guy to listen to actually. But this is about our transition into the future and this new world to look forward to. And when we're looking at this, it's like this is going to be a change, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So when it comes to fear, this fear of change, fear of instability, fear of loss, fear of not having, fear of not being enough, fear of failure, fear of never meeting the requirements of what is required of me. And I know growing up in a male dominant society as well, it's like needing to prove all the time to be something that I never was or never will be, but trying to prove that all the time, and that was never enough. And interestingly, having an argument and an interesting conversation afterwards with a friend of mine the other day around change, and also around looking at this part of myself that I need to look at around this proving. Because within that, and the frustration that I get, because from deep hurt, and I'm talking about deep childhood hurt of this never being heard or never feeling enough, and all the rest of it runs true in all of us. So an example of this is when I feel into that and the frustration around that, of like I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to help, I'm trying to support, or I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And if that is not enough for somebody, then I always feel like I'm failing. And sometimes that isn't enough for something, because they might not be ready for that, or might not want it, or and also one of my biggest lessons actually in life was this need to fix others. And actually that was just my ego. My ego wants to fix in order to make me feel better. Okay, so that's not true support. True support is really coming from a loving and compassionate space, and wanting to support another and not fix or heal another. And that's quite an important thing. Okay, so in relation to, I'll keep coming back to fear and all the rest of it, in relation to this fear, until we are ready to let go of the fear, until then we're not going to be shifting into this new space, or this new awakening, this new energy, where we can let go of everything revolving around past. So when it comes to anxiety, for example, when people talk about anxiety, anxiety is related to past experience, and now we're projecting into, and now that person is now projecting into the future, how things should be. So in that projection, instead of actually living each moment as it comes, I am constantly reminded. People might think I'm a little bit of an extrovert. I'm actually more of an introvert, and when I'm in public, I actually lose all sense of people's names and all the rest of people don't realize because I'm smiling and I'm all happy and how are you? And I have no idea sometimes what your name is, so please forgive me if I don't remember. But it is all quite overwhelming in that moment. What was my point on that actually? I can't remember. You see, I told you these are ramblings with Mark on not quite, I was going to say satsang, but it's not really question and answer. I'm answering some questions, but not really. So there are ramblings, and I will chop and change a little bit, so I don't know what that introvert was all about. Just moving on from that. So working with this previous experience, like looking at others as our mirror image, what I've really discovered about myself recently is, yes, this is the relation. So I want to I feel a lot of the time like I want to withdraw from society. Sometimes I have this notion that I'm going to go live in the Eastern Highlands and just build my little hut and become self-sufficient, and perhaps one day I will do that. For now there's work to be done, and I realize that, and I would like to do that work and support as much as possible. But in that, I've lost my point again, but in that reclusiveness or that hiding, what was the relation? It will come back to me. I've gone off on a tangent again. Let's see if it will come back to me. Things generally always come round in like little circles and so on. So I'm really smiling and laughing at myself. So in this mirror image of myself, that's what I was going to talk about, was what I am learning around that is, so that I can't keep coming back into myself, introverting myself. Humanity, like I get frustrated sometimes. I'm like, people, please, like get out of this victimhood of life owes me something, or poor me, or blaming the world for everything. It's like, it's time we took our responsibility for our own lives and stood up and did something for ourselves. And a lot of that comes down to self-love, to doing something which is more loving towards yourself. And it might be anything, like going for a little walk for 10 minutes every day, whatever that is. Get those endorphins going, get to feel good about who you are. I'm not saying completely, I'm not in this looking in the mirror and God, I love me, we have too many selfies and things out there. I mean, it's all, that's very different. But loving the self is learning to accept who you are for who you are. So in that, the lessons that I was learning in that reflection around myself is like, okay, is there anything that I'm fearful of? What do I want to keep holding on in my identity that I'm fearful of in order to be the best version of myself? And often I will retreat and I will hide, and I know that's not quite where I was going with that point, but it's like learning from others, and the lesson around this was like, okay, was about change. Yeah. So what am I still holding on to? What do I need to let go of? Asking myself that as well all the time. I tend to write things down. I love writing, and I love to journal things, and I get to the depth of journaling, and I don't know if anybody knows, but there is that connection with the subconscious mind and the written hand. Not just typing things out, but getting into the depth of our deep conscious mind. There is that inner wisdom that is always there. We have the answers. It is there. So uncovering that and looking at that and really acknowledging and taking the responsibility for the self and finding that. When I hear the expression, I can't change, I don't hear I can't, I actually see I won't change. I want to hold on to my identity. I want to hold on to what I know in my life, because of the fear of infinite possibilities. So when we let go of fear and we let go of identity and our past and our conditioning and all the rest of it, we have the unknown, the stepping into the unknown, which is of true potential. Like, to step out of that, we are stepping into the complete unknown. Yeah. And we are creative beings. We are the divine creative beings that we can create whatever we wish to create within our futures. And if we are going to change this world, and we are changing this world through consciousness, and that was going back to my point, is like, I can't keep retreating and withdrawing within myself because I want to avoid people. I need to be out there a lot more, and that is not in avoidance, and that's got to come from a compassionate place. Having compassion for my fellow human being, completely and utterly, this compassion, wherever you are in your life, yeah? So if you are in that victim stage right now, it's not a nice place to be in, and I get it. You know, maybe you have been the people pleaser, my own experience of being that people pleaser, wanting to fix, and it's never working, and you're always going to attract people in your life who are the victims, who need fixing, who think they need fixing. But when you are that, and you keep giving, you generally do land up in this victim part of our lives, you know, that part where we just like, I'm tired, I'm worn out, nobody cares, you know, nobody loves me, and all the rest of it. And then we become the persecutors, working with that drama triangle again. And you know, we either persecute ourselves or persecute everyone around us, and off we go. Anyway, working on from that. So this fear, it is really stepping into our very being of really who we are as this incredible, magnificent 75 to 100 trillion cells of being. And if we think about our own bodies, we are dying and living all the time. We are, sorry, just picking this paper up. We are living and dying all the time, from literally, you know, that production of cells and all the rest of it. We don't actually realize how much of us is changing all the time, and every single moment of the day. And what was the one fact that I love? I mean, we are literally reborn every 100th millionth of a second. I mean, that is phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. And when we go to that atom level, when we, you know, beyond all the breaking down of the physical and all the rest of it, when we go down to the atomic level, and we get into that quantum theory of, you know, we come and go the whole time. We are constantly reborn, and unfortunately what happens, you know, our minds are, we remember to the point where we maintain that sense of identity between that 100th millionth of a second. And when we get to the point of letting that all go and saying, okay, let us get excited about what we can create, not fearful, not into the fear of not being enough or not good enough. We have got to, you know, it's often that fear is our fear of achievement, or fear of being greater than who we can actually be, fear of our own power of creating a future we wish to create. And when we start to create that on a conscious level, when there are enough people that are awake, things will start to change. So don't ever think like one person, what am I going to do? That one person, you as that one person, by how you carry yourself in the world, by what you say, what you think, what you do, your thought, word and deed that carries out into the world, be mindful of that. And people will see that, and people will be affected by the energy of that. So nature knows all of this. And if you've ever done an experiment like I've done with young people, where you get boiled rice and you put one in one jar and one in another, and one you label as bad and one you label as good. And the good, you give your love and your compassion, you say beautiful rice, good rice. And the bad, you say horrible rice, you're shit, you're fucking awful, you know. That rice within a few days goes all black and moldy and it's awful. And the good rice stays as good rice. It doesn't deteriorate like the rice that you've spoken to badly. And you look at water particles. When we talk about water and we give love and we talk with that energy, we are creating a bond in that nucleus of water. It's beautifully formed. When we talk badly and that water is affected by, you can see it's all sporadic, it's all broken apart, it's all chaotic. So be careful, be mindful of what we say in this world, be mindful of what we do, be mindful of the love. Let's have more joy, more love, more companionship. Let's be kind to each other. Yeah? Nature has known this all along, and we know within nature, it's like, we can measure the sound of nature and how nature is affected by all of the energetics of this world. And we know, and we have been destructive in our planet right now. We are very destructive. And that destructiveness comes from the scarcity, and the scarcity comes from the fear of never having enough. Yeah? Mass producing of everything. That scarcity. We have enough. Yeah? There are more billionaires in this world than ever before, and yet there's probably more poverty than ever before. So, sorry, phone going on dead. That's probably a little reminder that I've gone on a little bit long. But let's learn from nature. Let's really go sit in nature. Let's feed ourselves. Let's plant our feet on the ground. Let's go and sit in silence. And in that silence, listen to nature. Listen to yourself. Listen to your own divine being, because there are answers in that. The divinity that is you. We are made in God's image. Yeah? And we think about our heart center. We talk about brain-heart coherence. Just a little bit about the heart. This magnitude of our heart. 40,000 neurotransmitters. This brain that is our heart. Just think about it for a minute. That heart is the first organ formed in the fetus. It has this radiance around it, this magnetic field that extends from outside of our bodies. And before we've even said anything, people already are acknowledging that feeling between us. And do you know what I loved in India, and I really felt into this? That greeting of namaste, the soul in me sees the soul in you, that honest from heart to heart. And when you are coming from your heart center and you are meeting people from your heart center, it is seen and it is felt, even before the mind starts to identify to that. What am I feeling? What am I doing? It's already there. It's already being felt. So let's be more loving. Let's be more accepting of each other. And most of all, let's be more loving and more accepting of ourselves. And getting to that point of embracing that fear, just looking at that fear. What am I really so afraid of? Yeah? Afraid of change. Well, what is change? Nature is constantly changing from season to season, day to day. Nature is always changing, and yet it has no, and nature is conscious within itself. Nature holds no fear in itself. And nature will keep evolving. This planet for 55 million years, like Zach Bush was saying, from those stages of evolution, we are constantly in that change. And nature will just keep changing, and we will keep changing, and there is nothing to fear around that. Absolutely nothing to fear. When you hold on to the knowing, when you hold on, you know what I mean by holding on, I'm not making attachment to, but when you know that you are this divine soul being from source, there is no physical death as such. There is only, how leaves fall and they regenerate and they provide the nourishment for each other, the interconnectedness of, the array of trees and roots and mushrooms and all the rest of it, and everything is just so connected. And we need to learn again. We need to know that we are all connected. Everything is connected. So, beloved ones, I think I have probably said enough. I think I have, for this first rambled a lot, but it is about change, and I think I've said enough about change. Let us let go of that resistance to change. Let's embrace change, and be the change you want to be in the world. Yeah. If you want more love, be more loving. If you want more peace, be more peaceful. Yeah. Stop listening to all that garbage we are hearing, and let's rewrite history. Let's rewrite what we want to create into this world. And this is a beautiful world, and we are so blessed to be alive right now. So with all my love and just so much love to you all as always, and yeah, be in touch. Lots of love.